Hi, I'm Ella and welcome to the little series that I like to call Sustainable. We're basically going to be looking at different brands and if we're just bashing brands for the sake of it. Today's culprit is going to be H&M, which got a lot of shame a few years ago for being fast fashion. Are they actually doing anything to be more sustainable as a brand? Here is the H&M website. Big button at the top, sustainability. Let's start with let's change, because obviously H&M do need to change. This is basically them talking about the different materials that they're using. We've got grape leather, not heard of that one before. A lot of natural fibres being mentioned here. I'll be interested to see which ones in their collections are made of that, or if it's just, one t-shirt. They've set a pretty ambitious goal here to be climate positive by 2040. They've got less than 20 years to do that. Are they going to invest in renewable energy? How are they going to be removing greenhouse gases from the air? They're not really given much of a plan here. They've just kind of said that's a goal. I would love to see like a game plan. Single-use packaging is bad and I'm glad that they're getting rid of that. Avoiding harmful chemicals. I would hope so. They've used a really cringe Britney Spears reference here about things being toxic. H&M getting down with the kids, Let's be transparent. This is the big part that I'm actually praising H&M for. I think they've done a really good job of this. If you click on product background, they have all this information about where things have been supplied from. So this one's been produced in China. And if you literally click and click again, it gives you the exact address of the factory where that thing has been made, which I think is honestly revolutionary. I can't think of a single brand that does that. There's a lot of information here that could be included if possible. What is the wage of the workers in that factory? Transparency does not mean sustainability, but it does ensure that you know where your things came from and you could trace that back. What's pretty cool about this specific top is 100% cotton, recycled cotton and organic cotton, which, you know what? I'm not mad about it. Let's look at something not in their sustainable range. Okay, let's take this pattern dress and see what's the deal. Viscose, okay, it's made from wood pulp, in case you didn't know. Says they're actively working with developing more sustainable viscose. Okay, I'm glad that they're at least giving me some information on that and saying, look, this isn't perfect, but we're getting there. Again, viscose. Made in Indonesia this time. I think this time I'm gonna actually see if I can find the factory on Google Maps. Why not, Let's see if we can find it. Bam, let's see. Okay, says that's a government office. This is hopeful. No, I'm gonna try and copy this in instead. I think we got it. It's a factory. Wow, this looks super safe. Outfit maker. Oh, look at all those coats. It's a lot of coats. A lot of clothes, which suggests that this is a factory that probably produces for fast fashion companies. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to try and find this one. Let's have a look. Here you go. Classic photo. Fast fashion factory. Could be anything really, but you can see by the sheer amount of pink clothing that looks identical that they're making mass amounts of clothing. This review is interesting. The regulations are not clear. The working hours are delayed. There's no day off. Overtime wages are paid late for weeks. Doesn't sound like good worker rights. Be interesting if how much they actually have connections with those factories or if they've pretty much just copied and pasted the address. There are a few things I would like to point out if I'm going to be really nitpicky here. H&M are going in the right direction. They have the right goals. I would just like to address they are still selling a lot of clothes. Let's take the cotton t-shirt as an example. Despite the fact that their conscious range and their innovation range is featuring organic cotton and recycled cotton, what about this classic t-shirt? Why are they unable to make this made from organic cotton? Does it need to be upmarketed as sustainable in order to make it sustainable? Obviously their goal is to use recycled, but they clearly haven't, so it would be really cool if H&M could make organic cotton or recycled cotton t-shirts at this price or even slightly higher to make sustainability accessible. I think H&M are a really good brand in terms of they're really bringing sustainability to the high street. Generally the clothes that they make are basics. They're not usually super trendy. This is all like blazers and neutral colours, things that are gonna last. A white shirt. White shirt's always going to be needed. I mean, they do have this conscious range, which, okay, here we go. Our conscious products are created with little extra consideration for the planet. At least 50% of each piece is made from more sustainable materials. Love that. Vintage stretch high jeans. Hold on a sec. If this is vintage, there might be a smidgen of greenwashing involved here. Just a smidgen. How can they label that as vintage if it's not actually vintage? Like, vintage is like super old, and this is obviously brand new. Is it because it's vintage style? They haven't specified that. It just says vintage J High jeans. That's like kind of lying. Is this lying? Contents of the jean is partly recycled. Doesn't say which part of it, but well, I'll trust your opinion there, H&M. But can I really trust you if you're saying that these vintage jeans aren't vintage, but they are vintage, but they aren't vintage? If I wanted vintage jeans, I would go to a vintage shop. I wouldn't go to H&M. But then we have articles like this come out. I know that this is like not the element of sustainability, but it's still ethics and human rights. And someone was murdered in a H&M factory. You know, while that's almost beyond their control, because they obviously can't control every single worker, obviously H&M are saying they don't have any tolerance for this, but it's still happening beneath their company. Yes, they have the transparency of their factories and where stuff is made, but have they got the transparency of what is happening to their workers? Yes, they've told us where things are being made, but that doesn't tell me anything. Like, do I know the factory owner? No, it's their job to be ensuring that we have that information and that they have that information, because if they don't have that information, there's clearly something wrong here. Part of what we're looking at here is a much wider issue. It's looking at ethics, not just at sustainability, and the actual workers that work beneath this and who are sewing your recycled cotton t-shirts together. While we should be praising H&M for their sustainable efforts, I think we should be challenging them on their ethical standards. Well, anyway, that's my little look into H&M's website and what they're actually doing to be sustainable. I think it would be somewhat wrong of us to shame H&M. If you are someone that wants to buy clothes in a sustainable way from sustainable materials, who doesn't really care about workers, buy from H&M. If you're really struggling to find sustainable clothes that are affordable, H&M is your best shot here, and support their sustainable action, because, you know, the more people that buy their sustainable clothes, the more going to be like, okay, there's demand for sustainable clothes, we're going to push for that. And they might end up having their whole collection be at least partially made of sustainable materials, which is a pretty good goal considering that H&M are quite big and influential in the fashion world. In some ways, H&M is a little bit sustainable rather than just sustainable, but it is better than nothing. They are doing something, they're starting making marketing, they're really pushing their recycled products. Thank you for watching, and I hope that this was somewhat useful. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. I do make videos about sustainability, fast fashion, and zero waste living. I'm going to be making this a bit of a series, so do comment below any brands that you want me to review and look into. So subscribe if you're really interested in those videos, and I'll see you next week. Bye!